There's a discovery in the field of physics called the Fermi Paradox, which is the contradiction between the high probability of there being intelligent life in the universe due to the sheer number of planets and star systems, and the apparent lack of such based on our experience. We have been listening for signs of intelligent life since we've been able to, for decades now, and yet our radio telescopes yield no signs. There was a book written in 2008 explaining an idea about this by a Chinese author named Lu Sixton, if I pronounced that correctly. The book was called The Dark Forest, which is a theory regarding the Fermi Paradox, wherein the explanation for our universe's apparent lack of intelligent life by virtue of no transmissions is due to the prospective being's understanding of game theory, meaning that if there are intelligent civilizations, they're not broadcasting for a reason. And that would be that any intelligent life that made its existence known through radio transmissions runs the risk of detection by another hostile species who would take steps to then snuff them out, to snuff out any nascent civilizations. And they would do this to prevent competition. When we look at ourselves and the fact that we only came up with this theory decades after broadcasting signals out into the universe, and despite knowing this theory, continuing to do so, possibly at our peril, I would suggest that this theory is unlikely. And that's based on our inability to unify as a species for the purpose of masking our presence. Like, we can't even agree as a species on hardly anything, let alone the decision to remain silent and bereft of radio transmissions. Like, we wouldn't be able to stop broadcasting our signal into the universe even if we wanted to, because we just can't agree. And I think this fact gives us an alternative explanation to the Fermi Paradox. I'm not making this up. Somebody probably came up with this, but another reason for the quietness of the universe is not only the vastness of space and the rarity of habitable planets, but also the time span in which intelligent civilizations appear, the shortness of such. Like, yes, the Earth is a planet that hosts life, but if we assume that we are correct in our belief that we are its first technological civilization, that limits the time span of Earth's existence wherein it broadcasted signals to our thus far minuscule reign on the planet. So it's not just a matter of finding an habitable planet, but doing so in that small sliver of time wherein the existence of a civilization capable of broadcasting is present. I would take this a step further, and this is the point of this video, and that is the Fermi Paradox is explained by the prospective brevity of our species' ability to broadcast. Like, not just thus far, but ultimately, as a percentage of the Earth's time span, our reign will be short. That is to say that not only have we only been broadcasting for a short while, but that will ultimately be a short while because we'll destroy ourselves. And the reasons for that I'll go into, but it should be obvious just from human history. So life-bearing planets are rare, and to encounter one during the reign of intelligent civilization, rarer still, due to a theorized universal propensity to quickly self-destruct due to a microcosmic version of the dark forest theory, an intraplanetary version of it, rather than like an interplanetary or intergalactic. So the dark forest theory does have some application, but at more of a microcosmic scale, like within our planet, meaning that the sample size of one that we have in ourselves by which to speculate on the trajectory of intelligent civilizations is the best evidence we have for what might happen to one. So here on Earth, we treat other groups within our own species as would different alien species from different planets in the dark forest theory. We do to ourselves that which the dark forest theory speculates is done by elder planetary technological civilizations to younger ones, and that is destroy them. The reason for this is hard-coded unconsciousness, which is the product of our evolutionary incubation. We are, by nature, unconscious, subject to a belief in body identification that necessitates fear for the survival of the species. The dark forest theory seems plausible only if the assumption that natural selection can produce a technological civilization that persists long enough to develop interstellar travel. If we were to somehow create a mathematical function, such as the Cobb-Douglas production function that uses capital and labor as inputs and technology as a coefficient that shifts the curve, we should add a constant to it that is human unconsciousness. We have been killing each other since the Stone Age, and we are killing each other now. I say this a lot, but in the aggregate, people don't change. Our propensity to kill each other is a function of fear caused by the perception of duality that aided us through our evolution. We believe ourselves to be the body that facilitates our ability to be aware, to be conscious. And for the vast majority of our history, it has served us because it's the best strategy in the natural state, and it's proven out by selection. But when you take that fear-based operating system and give it weapons, it just increases the efficiency with which we kill each other. And so if you apply this production function not to producing goods and services, but rather to producing weapons, both in quantity and in quality, they become more and more dangerous as that coefficient of technology increases. However, if there were a coefficient in the production function called consciousness that replaced the constant in that equation of unconsciousness, and that coefficient of consciousness that varied directly with the advancement of technology, the dark forest theory would be more plausible in that a civilization would likely survive to reach an advanced state of technology, perhaps even interstellar travel or interdimensional travel, and that then that species could apply game theory and remain quiet. But for the constant of unconsciousness to be replaced by the coefficient of consciousness, it would require a selection process that would favor species who continue on by virtue of having the quality of advancing consciousness while advancing technology. But there is no selection process because each such civilization is an island unto itself. It's not like we have multiple Earths that reproduce each other, and the ones that produce this coefficient of consciousness would survive. No. The Earth is a unique thing that's not able to replicate itself into better and more survivable versions through mutation. Like the system itself cannot be subject to the selection process to which the beings within it are subject. Additionally, within our planet, if there were, say, some race of people who developed this property through selection, who became more inherently conscious as their technology developed, they would still be vulnerable to the other races that haven't, which is like the crabs in the barrel problem. Our technology advances and increases the efficiency with which we kill and destroy, but our consciousness does not. We have no evidence of a consciousness coefficient, only an unconsciousness constant. And that constant that causes us to make war with each other remains as the coefficient of technology that increases the efficiency with which we kill each other advances. What I conjecture is that the process of natural selection that we observe on this planet is, for all practical purposes, universal across all space and time, and precludes the advancement beyond a certain level by virtue of technology that will destroy and the propensity to use it on ourselves. The best that we can do is manipulate the software between our ears to become more conscious, but that's an individual initiative that will never become universal. But still, it is possible for you to become more conscious, to discover the end of suffering, and to end one's own violent tendencies. Like, you can say that you're not violent, and you might be able to go through your whole life without killing or hurting anyone. But people who believe themselves to be stable and safe for others to be around are the very ones who end up murdering people. It just takes one particularly bad day for somebody to do something harmful to another that lands them in prison. We have evidence of it. As long as there is the unconscious belief in duality, of being a vulnerable thing relating to other things in a changeful world, there'll be fear. And when there's fear, there's zero-summism. We get civilizations that think that they are uniquely better than others, such that they think themselves justified in subjugating or destroying them. We see it today. In a world with a technologically advancing species that does not advance in terms of consciousness, we would see constant warfare that becomes more and more dangerous as the progression moves forward. And that's exactly what we see. The only way to advance consciousness is at the individual level, to do away with the unconscious belief in body identification. That belief is essential in the Hobbesian state, the natural world, but it becomes a hindrance in a world wherein technology has made it safe to not be a wild animal, but rather more dangerous. Technology becomes more dangerous in our unconsciousness. There are spiritual traditions that work towards this dispelling of unconsciousness, such as Buddhism and the non-entity worshipping facets of Hinduism, such as Advaita Vedanta. But even then, those who discover the end of fear and suffering are probably 1 in a million. The other traditions, the ones that hold to duality, to subject-object, to entity worship, they don't see the dispelling of this ignorance as a goal. And they will thus always be warlike. And that's what we see. That's all for now.